So, what if I told you that a huge modern-day crisis in public health, one involving fentanyl and federal stop work orders, isn't really a modern story at all? What if it's actually a ghost story, one that started about 115 years ago, and, well, it's been haunting American medicine ever since? Let's unpack it.
This sentence right here, this is the key to the whole thing. Seriously, it's a warning, it's a history lesson, and it's a roadmap for the future. We're going to come back to this, I promise, but just keep it in the back of your mind as we go.
Okay, picture this. Scientists are working with local barbershops, places people actually trust, to map fentanyl exposure in Black communities. And they're doing it without needles, without stigma. It's groundbreaking stuff. Then, out of nowhere, on Henrietta Lacks Day of all days, a stop work order comes down from the federal government. Project's done. And for everyone in that community, it felt like, yeah, we've seen this movie before.
Now, it's easy to look at that and just blame, modern politics or bureaucracy. But what if it's not just that? What if this is just the latest ripple from something that happened over a century ago? What if it's the work of a ghost? We call it Flexner's ghost. To really understand this ghost, we have to go back to its origin story. So let's take a trip back to 1910, to the very moment the entire architecture of American medicine got a major, and I mean major, redesign.
So who was this guy, Abraham Flexner? Well, first off, and this is kind of wild, he wasn't a doctor. Not even close. He was an educator, hired by the Carnegie Foundation because he had an outsider's eye to clean up what was a pretty chaotic medical system. But here's the real kicker, the deep irony. His own father was a patent medicine peddler, the exact kind of stuff his son's report was designed to wipe out. And listen, Flexner's report absolutely succeeded at its goal. It created this rigorous scientific model for medicine that, yeah, it led to a century of Nobel Prizes and incredible breakthroughs. But, and this is a huge but, that excellence came at a staggering cost. It built a system that was designed for exclusion. It shut down schools for women, for people in rural communities, and most devastatingly, for Black Americans.
And the impact was immediate. It was drastic. Before 1910, you had 7 medical schools for Black Americans in the country. After Flexner's report, just 2 were left standing, Howard and Meharry. That's it. Just 2 schools were left to train pretty much all of the nation's Black doctors for generations. The pipeline was just choked off in a single stroke.
So we kind of imagine the ghost of this legacy speaking to us, This wasn't necessarily about malice or evil intentions. It was a design choice. The goal was order. It was scientific purity. But the consequence, the thing that haunts us, is that entire communities were just pruned from the system, left completely outside the walls of this new cathedral of medicine.
Now, this flawed architecture from 1910, it didn't just stay in the past. Oh no, it created these deep fault lines in our public health system. And every time a new crisis hits, those fault lines just rupture.
I mean, just look at this timeline. You can draw a perfectly straight line from Flexner's blueprint in 1910 to the horrific disparities we saw in the HIV/AIDS crisis. You can see its shadow in the vaccine hesitancy during COVID-19, which, surprise, surprise, was highest in the very communities that have been shut out for decades. And boom, it leads us right back to that 2025 stop work order. It's the same fault line, cracking open again and again.
Okay, so if the problem is this massive, flawed, 100-year-old architecture, where in the world do you start to find a solution? Well, it turns out the answer isn't some new top-down billion-dollar federal program. It's somewhere a lot more familiar. The blueprint for how to repair all this, for a totally new way of doing public health, it wasn't discovered under a microscope. It was built one conversation at a time in community barbershops, places of trust that were there long before Flexner ever wrote his report.
This is the Hair Network, and it's just a brilliant model. You have barbers and stylists getting trained as public health advocates. It actually started way back during the HIV crisis and became famous during COVID with the Shots at the Shop initiative. And see, this totally flips the old model on its head. This isn't about scientists coming into a community to observe them. This is about co-creating science with the community, in a place where trust is already the foundation.
And this is the human face of that entire solution. This is Miss MC Butts from Baltimore. She represents this incredibly deep well of community knowledge, of lived experience, that the formal, top-down public health systems, well, they were never designed to see it, let alone value it. So the barbershop, it shows us what's possible. It's the proof of concept. Now let's look at the actual blueprint for how we can turn these
grassroots successes into a new, stronger, and way more just architecture for public health. The term for this new blueprint is reparative public health. But don't think of it as some lofty ideology. It's much more practical. Think of it as an architectural spec sheet. And the shift is fundamental. Instead of just documenting harm over and over, it says we have to alter the structures causing the harm. It says we have to stop treating trust like a soft skill and start investing in it like essential infrastructure, like roads and bridges.
And really, this whole approach is built on three pretty simple but powerful questions. 1, if our research proves a structure is harmful, don't we have an obligation to try and fix it? 2, if we know that trust leads to better health, shouldn't we, fund it? And 3, if barbershops and community groups are absolutely essential during a pandemic, shouldn't they get funded all the time, not just during an emergency? The answer to all three has to be yes.
And here is the most exciting part of this whole story. This new model, this answer to Flexner's ghost, it is not just an idea on paper. It's a living, breathing reality.
Meet the Nepenthe Cooperative. It's a community-owned research organization. And get this, the barbers and stylists, they're not research subjects. They are co-owners. The community helps design the studies, they help govern the process, and they share in the benefits. It's named for a mythical potion that was supposed to help you forget sorrow and heal painful memories. A pretty fitting antidote to the ghost of Flexner, don't you think?
Which brings us right back to where we started. Flexner's ghost was born from an institution that behaved in a way that chose a very narrow idea of excellence over equity, and it left behind a century of distrust. The Nepenthe Cooperative is a new institution designed to behave differently. Because after 115 years, the question isn't just about remembering the harm anymore. It's about having the will and now, finally, the blueprint to actually repair it.